Hello friends, in this session we are going to see the practical parts of lambda expression. Okay, so we will start now one by one. First example is lambda demo. So every example is from theory part itself. So we just have to practice it here. Same example here in the lambda demo. This is a very simple lambda example. Functional interface is created, which is having only one method, which is abstract. Okay, and then this functional interface reference variable is created, my number. Okay, then my number, the get value of the lambda expression is simply constant expression. It is returning the 123.45 as a value. Okay, so calling get value from this reference variable my number, like this, my number dot get value. So actual get value implementation will be without parameter goes to 123.45 as a double result. Okay, and here more complex expression is, first of all, random value is created, mat dot random into 100, and any random value will be written as a double value. Okay, so first random value and second value random value is generated. Okay, so here we cannot use string because lambda expression which must be compatible with the functional interface method definition. Okay, so now we will run this project. Fixed value 120.45, first random value and second random value. This random value is dependent upon your PC. Okay, how your compiler is generating a random value, it is not dependent. Every time it will not be the same. Okay, so you can go through this project. This is very simple lambda expression. Okay, very simple, nothing to worry about it. One by one you go step by step from simple to complex one, and after that you will understand it very clearly. Then lambda demo 2. Okay, in here also package lambda demo 2 is created. Class name is lambda demo 2. Functional interface is created, numeric test, which is having one parameter integer. Okay, so while defining the lambda expression, we will not pass the type as integer because it will be inferred from the target context, which is the integer n. Okay, and it is returning the boolean value. So numeric test is even, a reference variable is created. Okay, so how it will be evaluated? Parameter is passed, goes to n module 2 is equal to 0. If the number is completely divisible by 2, then it will return true, otherwise it will return false. Okay, so if it is true, it will give you even. If this is not true, it will give you odd. Okay, like this. This is also a simple example. Same numeric test reference variable, interface, functional interface reference is created. Same functional interface is used to test if it is non-negative. Okay, so parameter n goes to, if number is greater than equal to 0, then it is non-negative or positive number. Okay, if it is non-negative, test 1 is non-negative. If non-negative, test -1 is negative. Okay, like this. Okay, so you can go through this project one by one. Okay. Okay. So this is also very simple example. or negative, non-negative, like this. Next. Now we will see this third example, Lambda demo 3. Okay. In this, we have more complex representation of functional interface numeric test 2. Okay. So it is having two parameters. First is n, second is p. And it takes two parameters and returning the positive, true or false as a value. If one number is a factor of another. Okay. So if this number, first number, is completely divisible by this number, then t is factor of n. Okay. So it is completely divisible by 2. Okay. So each factor dot test 10, 2. So 10 is completely divisible by 2. So 2 is a factor of 10. Then each factor test 10, 3. 3 is not a factor of 10. Okay. Very simple example. You can go through this. Okay. Very simple example. You can create more complex one if you want as your practice program. Okay. Then I will close this project and move to the next one, block Lambda demo. Okay, in block Lambda demo, this computes a factorial of an integer value. So for factorial computation, what we need? We need more than one single line expression. So there will be multiple lines that will be computing the factorial of the integer number. So we will take one parameter and return the one value as an integer. Okay. Function will always return a one only one value. Function will always return only one value. But here we are. I want to say that it will return the integer 1. Okay. So it is taking n. N will be the parameter that we are passing. Okay. Then it goes to result is created. Result variable is created from 1 to n. Result is equal to I into result. Okay. So it will be computing our factorial. First is 1, result is 1. 1 into 1 is 1. 1 will be stored over here. Then I is 2. Then result is 1. 2 into 1 is 2. So 2 will be stored over here. Then 3, I is 3. Result is equal to 2 into 3. So this is 3, this is 2. 3 into 2 is equal to 6. Okay. So if I want to compute the factorial of 3, it will be computing at it as 3. Okay. Output will be 3. Next, factorial of 3 and 5. Factorial of 5 is displayed over here like this. Factorial of 3 is 6. Factorial of 5 is 120. Okay. So now you can go through this project. This is also very simple example that computes the factorial. Then next, block Lambda demo 2. Here also package block Lambda demo 2 is created. Here we are creating the block Lambda that is reversing the characters in the string. Okay. So we are taking one parameter as string and second which is returning as a string. So block lambda demo 2 will be creating it as how it will be implemented, taking one parameter as a string, then result and integer I variables are created. Okay, so every character in string will be stored in a result in a reverse way from string dot length -1. If the string length is 10, from the ninth index each and every character will be stored in a result variable, so that it will be reversing our total output. Okay, so lambda reversed is reverse dot function lambda and reverse dot function expression. So lambda reverse will be given here, over here, and expression reverse is given over here. Okay, so now I will run this project. Lambda reverse is this and expression reverse is this. Okay, so now you can go through this project one by one. Okay, new topics complexity depends upon how you are practicing. If you are practicing it more, understanding the theory concepts more, then it will be very easy for you to understand it better. Okay, so go through this project one by one. Okay, so next, generic functional interface demo. Okay, use a generic functional interface with lambda expression. So interface is generic over here. Type specified is T. T is the parameter. T will be the return type. Okay, so here same generic functional interface is used. Use string based version first. Here we are passing string to call the reverse. Okay, so same reverse method is provided like in the previous example, lambda reverse, expression reverse. And now integer based version is some function integer, type is integer factorial. So same functional interface will be used to compute the factorial of a particular number. Type is T, return type is also T. So provided we are providing the n as a parameter, returning integer as a result. Okay. So we don't need to write the functional interface 2 times, right? So you can go through this project. First of all, I will run this. First is lambda reverse, expression reverse, string version, and second is integer version. Okay. You can go through this line by line. Generic functional interface demo. Okay, so here we have combined two types of operations by single functional interface. Okay, next is lambda as arguments demo. So now I will close this one. Lambda as arguments table. Okay, So package lambda as arguments demo is created over here. Okay. So now lambda expression, use lambda expression as an argument to a method. Okay. Interface string function is created, functional interface having one parameter string and returning as a string. Okay. Lambda as arguments demo here as a this method has a functional interface as the type of its first parameter. Okay. So functional interface reference variable will be the first value. So whatever will be evaluated will be given over here. If it has a block of code, you better you create a code first, create a variable, assign a lambda expression to it, and pass that particular reference variable over here. And second will be a string operation. Okay, that will be to operated upon. Okay, so input string is lambdas add forward to Java, and output string. Now the simple expression is, first of all, string OP, and string will be converted. This is the function, static function string OP having first parameter as the functional interface reference variable, and it is evaluating to this. We are instead of creating particular reference variable, we are directly giving the name expression like this and providing the input string, and then output string is displayed. Okay. Next is block lambda that removes the spaces. Okay. To remove the spaces, what we have to do? We have to combine all the characters instead of spaces. So we are removing spaces one by one and returning the result. Okay. Next. So we can also create a functional reference variable, functional interface reference variable, and then pass it as the first parameter of this function, reverse. Okay. So what we have done here we directly created the lambda expression. Okay. This is the first thing. This is the lambda expression evaluated. Instead of creating the separate reference variable of functional interface, we are directly passing the lambda expression that is to be evaluated, and second is the input string. But here what we can do, we can separately create a reference variable functional interface reference variable reverse, and pass the reverse variable as a first parameter to string OP. Okay. So very simple example. If you have understood theory very clearly, it is very simple thing. Nothing to worry about it. Okay. If you have not understood, you can go back and revise the theory part. Okay. So input string is lambdas add power to Java. Uppercase lambdas add to power to Java, and spaces remove. All the spaces are removed, and reverse string is over here. Okay. So now you can go through this project one by one. Okay. So next, I will close this project, and next is lambda exception demo. Package lambda exception demo is created. Okay. The class name is lambda exception demo. So we are creating, throwing the exception. Okay. What is the criteria? It should be throwing the expression from functional interface method. If you want to throw it from lambda expression that is to be evaluated. So both things should be compatible in all cases. The main thing that you have to remember. Okay. So we are creating one functional interface double numeric array function. It is having one method which has the parameter as double array n, and it throws the empty array exception. Okay. So here, empty array exception is a custom exception created, and its default constructor is telling us that array is empty. Okay. So now, main function in the public static void main, it is throwing empty array exception. This block lambda counts the average of an array of doubles. Okay. So whatever values that we are passing, it will count the average of it. Okay. Then double numeric array function average n has been passed. Okay, and the output is like this. Okay, this is the things to be evaluated. If the array is empty, we are not passing anything. Zero length array, it will give you empty array exception. Otherwise, it will calculate the sum of all elements of array and divide it by n dot length. Find out the average. Okay. Then array is provided, average is displayed over here, and if we want to test that it is throwing the empty array exception, we are passing here the empty array, new double array with length as a 0. Okay. So now I will run this. Average first is having the correct output, and second is array is empty. Okay. So it is thrown by throw new empty array exception. If you want to throw the array, throw any type of exception from the lambda, what you have to do? Its types should be your functional interface method should also throw the it should also have the throws clause that throws the particular exception. Okay. So now you can go through this one by one. Okay. So now I will close this project. Lambda exception demo. I will close this and I will move to the next one, that is variable capture demo. Okay. So example of capturing a local variable from enclosing scope. Okay. So we have understood its theory. Okay. So first of all, creating the interface, functional interface, my function. Okay. Then class variable capture, in that public static void main is provided. Okay. So if you want to have the variable that is in the enclosing scope, you can directly use it, but you cannot modify it. Okay. That is the effectively final variable. Okay. It will give you error because you are going to modify the value. Okay. If you want to use it, you can directly use it to capture the variable. Now I will run this. Output as v is equal to 30. Okay. So go through this one by one. If you are not understanding anything, you can go back to the theory part. Okay, to revise. It is very simple examples. Okay, you just have to understand the criterias or rules to have the output as expected. You are satisfying all conditions, then it is okay. Next, method reference demo. Okay, So method reference for a static method. So first of all, method is created. First of all, functional interface is created. String function. Okay, it is having one parameter as string and returning string. Okay, then this class defines a static method called string reverse. To reverse a string, my string OPS. So method reference, how to call it? Using double colon. Okay, so for static method, what is the rule? Class name double colon method name, that we have understood in the theory part. Okay, so what is this method is doing? It is reversing the characters as we have seen in the previous example. Same method definition. In the method reference demo, we are creating this method reference demo has a functional interface as the type of its first parameter. Okay, so whatever evaluation will be there, it will be passed as a first parameter, and input string is S. Okay, so now whatever the output is, dot function S. Okay, so functional interface string function has a function called func function and having one parameter, and that input parameter is S as a second string. Okay, so first of all, what we will create? Input string and output string variables. Secondly, string op, that is the static method. No need to have the object of that. Then class name double colon method name. Method name is string reverse. Okay. So what it will evaluate? It will evaluate to my declaration of reverse method. Okay. My string OPS double colon string reverse. It will evaluate to this one. Okay. Done. Then next, input string is provided over here. Okay. So most of the important things you have to remember. This is also static. This is also static. So no need to create the main object of the class. So original string and output string is provided. Lambda is add forward to Java and reverse string is this one. Completely string is reversed. You can go through this project one by one. Okay. So now we will move forward for the next project, which is instance method with object reference demo. Instance method object reference demo. So instance method reference is used with different types of objects. So here the functional reference has a one method, takes two reference arguments and returns a Boolean result. This is the generic functional interface with generic method. Okay. High temperature for the day. The same example from the theory part we are repeating over here. Repetition. Return true if the invoking high temperature object has the same temperature as HT2. Okay. So invoking objects, if high temperature variable high temperature is created over here in the parameterized constructor, whatever object that whatever value that will be passed in will be initialized to this. Okay. If the value that we have passed is equal to the same temperature as this high temperature 2, then it will return true. Okay. Return true if the invoking high temperature object has a temperature that is less than HT2. Okay. So initialize high temperature is less than high to temperature, given temperature, then it will be returning true. Okay. So next, instance method with object reference name. A method that returns the number of occurrences of an object for which some criteria as specified by the my functional parameter is true. Okay. Integer counter t values by function t and t value. So first is having the array of type t, then functional interface my function t. Okay, this is the functional interface reference variable we are passing as the second parameter f, and third is the value. Okay, and what we are doing, what this counter method is doing, this is the generic method that returns the number of occurrences of an object for which the sum criteria specified by the my functional parameter is true. Okay, if it is high, it will return high as a true highest temperature and lowest temperature. It will find out. Okay, then for this particular array length, what we are doing, if reference variable f, which reference variable? Functional interface my functions reference variable values v, then count plus plus. Okay, so what this function is doing, having two parameters. Okay, so and it is returning the count. So create an array of high temperature objects. High temperature 89, 82, 90, 89, 89, 91 and like this. All these temperatures are passed, and then counter with arrays of class high temperature. Reference to the instance method, same temperature is passed as the second argument. So first of all, what we have created, array of weekday high. So all weekdays high temperatures are counted and provided as an object over here. So array of objects are created, object of class high temperature. Next is a counter method with arrays of class high temperature. Okay, so weekday highs are passed over here. First of all, what is passed? High temperature array. This is the array. Okay, then my function f variable is passed, and what is the criteria? High temperature double colon same temperature. Okay, same temperature, what it is returning over here, if this whatever value that we are passing, it is same as the created object. Okay, it is same, then it is the highest value, and third is value. So those days will be returned whose temperature is same as 89. Okay, so it will count those number of days. How many number of times it was having 89 as the temperature, same temperature, it will be returning its count. We will see what is the count, and next weekday highs to array is created. Okay, so next array is passed for same temperature 12. How many times 12 is there? High temperature as 12, it will be printed over here. Now less than temperature is created, called like this, class name double colon less than temperature, less than 89. How many number of times it was less than 89? Those days will be counted. And how many number of times it was less than 90? So now I will run this. 3 days in a week had high of 89, 2 days was 12, 3 days it was high less than 89, and for 5 days it was high less than 9. Okay, so complex structure has made simplified using this lambda expressions. Okay, this is just a tricky example. It is bit quite difficult, but if you will go through it one by one, you will understand it. Okay. Oh, next, close this one. Then next, generic method reference demo. Okay, here generic method reference demo package. Default package is used over here. I forgot to create the package. I'm sorry for that. A functional interface that operates. Demonstrate a method reference to a generic method declared inside a non-generic class. So, method reference to a generic method inside a non-generic class. A functional interface that operates on array and value and returns an integer, as simple as that. Okay. This class tells count matching that returns the number of items in an array that are equal to a specified value. Okay. So this class is not generic, count match is generic. So how many times this value is occurring in this array? It is finding out and returning the count. Okay. Same example from theory. So generic method reference demo has the my functional function interface as the first parameter to my OP, static method my OP. Okay, and other two parameters are array and value, both of type t. Okay, what it will return? F dot function values comma t. So first of all, values array is created for integers and as well as string, and count is given. So first is calling for integer type method, count matching, array, and which value I have to find 4. And it is displaying how many times 4s are there. And second is finding out strings, 2 strings, how many times 2. Okay. So I will run this code. Values contains 3 4s and string contains 2 2s. Okay. Same example we have used. So nothing to worry. If you have understood theory, just go through it. You'll understand the practical also. Notice here, before the primitive type int, we are using the parameter. So return type will always be int. It will not change. It will not be boolean. It will not be float and so on. Only the type is changed. That will tell us on which type of data you want to operate. If you want to operate on string, we can pass the string array, string value. If you are operating upon double, then array should be double, value should also be double. So t should be same in this case. Okay. And nothing big in that. It is just finding out how many times value is present in the array. This is the static method called without using object, which is having the reference variable of functional interface, and it will be evaluating like this: f dot function values of v. So first is which functional interface we are using, second is which array, and third is which value we want to find it out. Okay, and it will be evaluated in the count matching method. The class name, double colon, parameter, and method name, which is static, right? Count matching is static method without using object. Okay, so next, we will go to the next one. Use method reference demo. Package use method reference demo is created. Use a method reference to find maximum value in a collection. Okay, so actually method reference use is done over here. Here class is created. For collection interface, we are importing java.util.star. My class is created. Its parameter is constructor having value b as a parameter. Okay. Then get value, return value. Then use method reference class. Okay, a compare method compatible with one defined by the comparator interface. Here it is taking two parameters and returning a dot value minus b dot value. Okay, so 142,937 are values added in the collection. Collection used is array list. Array list of objects. Okay. So since it is object, we are adding objects one by one like this. New my class, new my class, new my class. Okay. Because for creating objects, we have to create it like this. My class A is equal to new my class. Okay. Then collections interface max method is used over here. First parameter is array list on which we are going to operate upon. Then use method reference. Use method reference is a class name and double colon compare MC is a method name. Okay. So each method will be compared with each other. Each number will be compared with each other, and its maximum value will be found out. And maximum value, max object value dot get value, because it will be returned as an object. Okay. So now maximum value is 9 over here. 142,937. That 9 is maximum value. Okay. So you can go through this one by one. So next is constructor reference demo. Constructor reference demo, package constructor reference demo is created. Okay. Okay. My function is a function interface. Method returns a my class reference or my class object. It is taking one parameter integer m. Okay. Private integer value is created. Parameterized constructor is initializing the v like this, and default constructor is taking no parameters because of that it will be not matched with the functional interface reference. It will be matched with the parameterized one. Here it is integer, here it is integer. One parameter like this. Okay, and since constructor always return the object of the class and function interface is returning object of my class, both will be compatible with each other, right? Then get value will simply return the value. Now it is very simple constructor reference example. Create a reference to my class constructor. How it is created? First of all, functional interface name. My class constructor reference is created. How it is created? Class name double colon new. Okay. Because function is a my function takes one argument, it will be matched with the parameterized constructor of my class. And constructor reference dot function 100. So it will be initialized, value will be initialized to 100, and get value will be returning the 100 as a value. Okay. Now I will run this one. Value in MC is 100. Okay. As simple as that. You can go through this. Constructor reference demo 2 is created package. Okay. Constructor reference with generic class, generic functional interface is created. Okay, returning generic class object. Okay, taking one parameter, type B. Same example, only generic method, generic thing is added over here. Everything is generic. Value is variable is created. It is initialized over here. Then default constructor, it will not be used. Get value will return the value. Okay. So here integer type is used so that reference variable is created of functional interface for the type generic for the type integer. How it is created? Class name double colon new, only the type is added. Everything is similar as the previous example. Okay. Create an instance of my class via that constructor reference. Constructor reference dot function, it will return the object of my class and object name dot function name mc dot get value. Okay, most of the time constructor reference will not be used because it gains nothing, it adds nothing to our program. But just for the sake of understanding, sake of introduction, we have introduced here. Okay. Okay. Next, constructor reference demo 3. In that also package is created. Okay. So here, simple class factory using a constructor reference. Okay. So interface functional interface my function is created. One type is R, second is T, returning R, and input type is okay, simple generic class of type T takes an argument. Parameter is a default constructor my class. Get value will return value. Next is simple non-generic class. Okay, one argument returning creating object parameterized constructor. Default will not be used by this program. Okay, so class factory, here we are passing the reference variable of the functional interface my function and value is p. Okay, so it is returning R. So how it is computed? Like constructor reference dot function and bracket p and public static void main. In it, what we are doing? We are creating first my class for double. Okay, so what it is doing over here? Returning the object like this. Okay. So what it is doing? It is taking one parameter and returning R. So in this function, constructor reference, a factory method for class object. Class must have a constructor that takes one parameter of type T and R specifies the type of object being created. Okay. So for double, we are creating the constructor reference like this and create an instance of my class using this constructor reference, my class constructor. We are passing it here, my class constructor reference and factory method. We are passing the value in the my class factory. And what my class factory is doing? Return constructor reference dot function v. Okay. So what does v is doing? It will be matched with the parameterized constructor and returning the value. So it will simply return the value 100.1. Okay. So value is MC is 100.1. For now, next is for string parameter. We are creating a reference variable for functional interface for string type. Okay, my class 2 double colon new. Okay, and this is non-generic class, for example. Next, in the my class factory, we are passing this constructor reference, my class constructor 2, and passing value as lambda. So that same value lambda will be matched with the parameterized constructor and it will be written in mc2.getValue. Okay, now I will run this one. Value in MC is 100.1, string in MC2 is lambda. Okay. So now we will move to the last project. That project is use function interface demo. So this is a very simple example as well. Package is created, use function interface demo class is also created. Okay. Use the function built-in functional interface. Built-in functional interface example is given over here from the package java.util.function. Okay, so for factorial, we are using the built-in functional interface. This block lambda consists the factorial of int value. This time function is the functional interface. Okay, function, two parameters, type integer and integer, text integer, returns integer, factorial of n, result is return. Okay, factorial of 3 is 3, factorial 3 and 5 are computed and returned. Okay, so this time inbuilt functional interface is created. You can go through this project. You don't have to create expression for that functional interface because it is already available in the package java.util.function. We are directly using it over here. So this way we have completely done with all the projects related to Lambda expression. Okay, from the next session we will move forward for the brand new chapter. So till then you can enjoy Lambda, understand theory part and practice the practical part. Okay, so meet you in the next session with the new chapter. Thank you so much.